Hi, chosen few expats. Welcome back. And if you're new to our channel, thank you for joining us. My name is Alonzo. Before we get into this video, I had a couple of things I wanted to cover. First, we now have our Shopify store open. So if you're interested in supporting the channel through purchase of some of our products and accessories with our chosen few expats logo, as well as some other t-shirts and accessories dealing with some of the cities and the areas and the provinces around Panama, click the link above to go into our Shopify store. You can also click onto any of the items that are below this video. Click the home button. That will show you the full assortment of products because only a few of the products are listed up underneath the video. Secondly, before we get into this interview with Beth McGuyton, I just wanted to point out that you guys really should watch the entirety of this interview, both parts 1 and 2. Beth is not a typical expat who just came down here, started a business. Beth has been here in excess of 9 years. She's married to a Panamanian, so she brings a very, very detailed insight into the Panamanian culture and how it relates to us as being expats here from the U.S. and Canada. So be sure to watch that all the way through. And just aside from that, she's a great interview, very entertaining. So with that, y'all enjoy the show. Hi, welcome to the Chosen Few Expats Show. I'm Alonzo. Today we have with us a guest who's been an expat in Panama for 8 years, a guest who's a realtor and relocation specialist here. Let's welcome Beth McGuyton to the show. Hi, Beth, how are you?
I'm well, Alonzo. I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. We very much appreciate your time. We know it's a busy time for you, so we appreciate you joining us. And so
You're
with
welcome.
that, can you give our subscribers a little bit of background about yourself? You know, where are you from, and what made you decide to become an expat in Panama?
Yeah, absolutely. So where I'm from is always kind of a tough question to answer. I claim Texas. That's where I was born. But I was raised equally between Texas, Wyoming, and Costa Rica. And then expatriatism, that's a tongue twist. It actually found me. I didn't find it. My dad had lived in Panama for years, and I had decided to bring my daughter, who was 10 at the time. I wanted to introduce a new culture to her. So I took a leave of absence from my job for 9 months with the intention of returning back to Texas. And I came to the Coronado area. I fell in love with it. I met the owner of Panama now, who I have partnered with and worked with for the past 7 years. So I guess it was just kind of destiny. I never went back.
No, you never went back?
Never.
You never moved back, or you've never even traveled back?
Oh, I've been back to visit my family. Yeah, but I can't, since I got here, those 8 years ago with the intention of leaving, I never went back. I just stayed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So if you would tell us a little bit about how you decided to become, or what was your path to becoming a realtor and relocation specialist and dealing with the real estate industry?
So obviously, especially I was 28 at the time, so income is important. I had a background in television, radio, photography, sales, and I met, like I said, the current owner, the owner of Panama, Jose Brose. Him and I became friends. He saw that I was bilingual, at the time. Now the community is a little more diverse. At the time, it was majority retirees. So it was really hard to find someone that wanted to work. So he, offered me a job, and I kind of was very intrigued. I thought I had what it took. And I started off as the property and rental manager of the company. So since then, I've branched into sales, I've branched into relocation, I've partnered. So it's kind of evolved. So we really do pretty much all things real estate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So, ¿tienes casas o apartamentos en otras áreas de este país o solamente en Coronado area?
Solamente en el área de Coronado.
Ah, see,
Tu español es muy bueno.
I tried to throw you off with that one, but I get most people, but I couldn't get you because you dropped that you were bilingual, and I didn't even know that. So I guess that time in
Yeah.
Costa Rica, you must have made good use of that time. But
Yeah, well, and I'm married to a Panamanian. I think that's kind of one of the things in real estate that sets us apart is we are fully bilingual. So we're really, really well connected with both the Panamanian and the expat community. But yeah, I've been with my husband for 7 years, and he's really helped me excel in my Spanish. So.
Right, yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, I'm still working on mine. Necesito más practicar, pero entendiendo más palabras todos los días. But I couldn't get you though. I tried to get people, but usually I try to at least throw one question in there in Spanish just to try to, because we encourage our subscribers to start learning some Spanish, because you are going to need to know some Spanish in order to have the best experience,
Absolutely.
You could make it Google Translate and all that stuff, but so we usually just try to throw one question out there in Spanish and translate it for people just so they can keep learning along the way.
Yeah.
But before
you didn't get me.
So, before we dive into the real estate portion, you just said something interesting with you and your husband being a Panamanian, and him helping you, and it being a good combination. It just made me think back to some of the other interviews we've done, both with expats from the US and people who are native Panamanians who lived in the US that came back to Panama. In our interview with Joyce Barr and Shayna V. Monroe of V Girl TV, and Charlotte Van Horn, Black Expats in Panama. A few other people have all noted that customer service in Panama is lacking. I mean, just in general, that people get business generally can get done, but it's not at the breakneck pace that we're used to in the US. So you made me think about that when you talk about having met your now husband and being in business together, and maybe you bringing some of that fire from the States in terms of, hey, let's get it done, and him maybe being able to, kind of guide you through how to get things done within the culture of Panama, which is more relaxed, but still, So is there anything you can maybe add, some insight you can add to that to kind of give people an idea of what to expect? Just in general, I mean, not just with the real estate transactions, but in general when they arrive in Panama.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question. And I think it's something that people need to prepare for. I think that the way of life in Panama, I think it's actually ambiguous. There's both pros and cons. I know for myself, I was working in Dallas, Texas. I was, in high pressure cells. I never rested. I never sat down, and it was, instant gratification, go, 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 go. So when I first landed here, I will be honest and say, did have a lot of moments of frustration because I did not have patience, which I have now come to learn it definitely is a virtue. But you know what? It's actually helped me to calm down. I've learned how to, I know it's so cliche, but like stop and smell the roses. And it really has been life-changing. Now, at the same time, when you're trying to run a business and your clients are expats, predominantly from Europe and North America, they want things done on their time. So it is challenging. My husband, he's a little different than the typical Panamanian. He went to a military school, so he's very punctual, and he's also very, we're very similar, which keeps the fights less, right?
Right.
I think I definitely have brought more of that North American mindset to the table. But Panama has its own way of life. And the longer you're here, the more you realize how things work. Sometimes bribes are involved. I know it's corruption, but I'm just saying what I've learned. Sometimes it's all about who, it's a small country. Everyone knows everyone. If you're not Panamanian, you need a contact. So I always recommend that you make friends with someone Panamanian. Because you're going to need stuff, whether it's purchasing a car or, even mundane things or simple things like getting a cell phone. If you have someone in your network that knows people and can kind of guide you and navigate through the Panamanian way of life, it'll make it a lot easier. And also, I know that people probably working with you, I know for my clients as well, I help them throughout that. I think when someone chooses me to help them in their search of a home or in their relocation, they kind of get my, what I call professional toolkit, which is, all of those connections that I've made. But yeah, definitely come with patience. Do not come with the comparison of where you came from to here, because if you constantly compare, you will continuously be frustrated. And little by little, ask questions, ask questions like, how does this work? Or what am I doing? I know for me too, I worked in the service industry. I was a server and a bartender all of my teenage years, put myself through college. And in the US, if you raise your hand and snap at someone to get something, that's rude. But here, that's necessary. They don't continuously come to your table because they feel like that's bothersome. They think that when you want something, you'll tell them. So those little nuances you have to kind of learn as you go.
Right. Thanks so much for that. That was one question I was going to ask near the end, and I still will, about advice for expats or future expats.
Yeah.
But that's a great piece of advice, and thanks for adding that.
So
you mentioned, so you're in a Coronado area, and that's kind of your area of expertise. But if we have subscribers who are interested in other areas of the country, and you have some connections or colleagues, co-workers, where we can get them some assistance to find some homes or apartments in other areas of the country. Because I know one interesting thing about Panama is that there's no MLS, no multi-listing service. So the connections that you mentioned before are even that much more important, because there's no one-stop shop to go look to see the entire inventory of what's available, like in the US and Europe, Canada, and places like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, there is an MLS. It's just not standard. We're members of it. I think in the profession, we're really pushing hard for that very reason, because obviously the US has set the example of how efficient it makes things, and it just is flawless, and you get the data, and but that's a work in progress. I don't think that we'll have a full-blown MLS system for probably 5 to 10 years, but that's also why it's so important to work with an agent that is incredibly well connected. And whether it's me, whether it's whoever, I would always recommend to your subscribers and your viewers and people that ask you, that would be one of the first questions I would ask, like, how big is your network? Because of the lack of the MLS growth, you want to make sure that you're well connected. So that being said, I have a great network. Again, I think being so involved in the Panamanian community as well as the expat, it's really expanded my network. So we specialize in the Panama Pacific, which is basically Chame to Buenaventura. Those are the beach towns. It's about a 30-mile radius. We also do the mountain communities, which are predominantly El Valle and Alto San Maria. But I have contacts in every area of Panama that are reputable, that I've worked with. So whenever a client's looking out of my area, we just make sure we put them in the right hands with someone else. So yes. I don't know if that's like long-winded.
No, that's perfect.
To answer your question, yes.
That's perfect. So, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned some of the beach areas. Of course, we know the city. A lot of people interested in the city. I'm glad you also mentioned El Valle and Altos de Maria, some of the mountain areas, which are in closer proximity to the city. And gosh, you have a lot of interest out there with folks wanting to check out Boquete and things out further west. Yeah. But, can you just give us, I guess, a general idea when it comes to homes? Just kind of what are the general ranges, kind of low, medium, and high, city versus beach versus mountains,
yeah,
just rough estimates, just to give people an idea of what they can expect.
So that's kind of a complicated question to answer, just because there's such a vast difference. I mean, it's all over the map in terms of price point, in terms of layouts, floor plans, architecture, location, quality of the finishings. I mean, there's everything you can imagine, which is actually a plus for the buyer or the renter, because since there are so many price points and so many property types, usually we can find what they're looking for. That being said, in general, no matter where you are in the country, in the rural areas that are outside of the hubs, those are always going to be your lower price points. Obviously, when you're in the Mecca, you're right in the city, or if you're in Coronado or right nearby it, same thing with like inside of Boquete, you're always going to have higher pricing. And again, lifestyle really plays a factor in this. Because for instance, you know, if someone was on a very extreme fixed income looking for a rent for $500 or $600 a month, does that exist? Absolutely. But you're not going to find it. It's not going to be a beachfront condo. It's not going to be where the expats live. It's going to be living in a local Panamanian style home, may or may not have hot water, you know, very simple floor plan, probably lower quality. So there's so many factors. And I think that's why the client consultation is so valuable. But I know that people want prices. So to give you an example,